Hey there folks, PrepMarine81 here. As you can see from what's in front of you, today's video is going to be going over customizing your 1911. For those of you who follow my channel, you probably already know that I'm relatively new to the world of 1911s. I've shot them in the past. I've had my eye on purchasing one for years and just never really pulled the trigger on it up until probably about roughly a year ago. And the one that I did purchase is the one on the far left here that you see. That is a Rock Island Armory tactical version. It looks quite a bit different than what it did from the factory. There's virtually nothing factory on it except for all the parts are the same. As far as cosmetically, and a lot of the internal stuff has all been altered. The pink one that you see in front of you, this is actually my sister's. I'm getting ready to finish up some work that I'm doing on it for her. It is a Taurus PT 1911, and it's obviously a female's weapon because it's in bright pink. But she loves it, so that's all that matters, right? Now, getting to the whole customization aspect of this video, if this is something that you're considering doing to your 1911, just right off the bat, before I get into any of the details and everything and what I've done and what I would recommend doing and not doing yourself, the greatest thing that you can possibly do for yourself when thinking about customizing your 1911, or any weapon for that matter, because I generally will customize every weapon that I purchase unless it's something that I know that I'm just going to try out for a little while and then resell. I will keep it factory. I've customized 1911s, Glocks, Smith & Wessons, even rifles, Mosin Nagants, AK-47s, ARs, you name it. And generally what I've found across the board, not just with 1911s, but with any firearm in general, is if you are afraid of doing something because you're worried about, am I going to mess up the gun? Am I not going to be happy with the results? My advice to you is just do some research first. That's really key. Just, jump on YouTube even. Watch some videos on how to do this kind of thing, or, certain things that have been done to whatever firearm it is that you're thinking about modifying. Do some research first, and then just try it. Honestly, the worst thing that can happen is, yes, you do mess something up, and you got to take it to, either a gunsmith or somebody to have it corrected. But I will get into a little bit of that, a little more detailed, as far as what I would recommend doing yourself if you're a novice, and what I would not recommend doing yourself. I am a gunsmith, so this makes doing this kind of thing a little bit different. For somebody who's never tried anything like this before, or doesn't have any kind of education in it, or have somebody who has kind of oversee what they're doing. My advice would be just to do a little bit of research and then just go for it. If at one point, you kind of start to get a little bit uncomfortable about what it is that you're doing, stop, and then take it to a professional. But the only way that you're going to learn how to do this kind of stuff is by doing it, in my opinion. That's the way I learned how to do a lot of the customization that I've done in the past. It's just by doing, just by winging it, and kind of working yourself through, the process. But enough about that. I will go over a little bit of what I've done with these 1911s in particular, seeing as this video is really kind of specializing on just customizing 1911s. And as you know, there is a whole world of stuff that can be done to these firearms. They are extensively used in competition. If you're building a race gun, you can really get into a whole lot of, minute detail changes as far as, internal components, parts, the list goes on and on what can be done to these firearms. I'm not really going to get into race gun building because that's not exactly what you see in front of you. These are more run-of-the-mill, modifications, improvements that people can do to their 1911s that are an everyday gun, or just an average range gun, to help improve the the functionality, the overall reliability and performance, and the aesthetic or just overall appearance of the firearm to make it better, or more enjoyable to you. So I'll go over a little bit of that, and a lot of what has been done to these two is very similar. Just some everyday improvements that I think that everybody should kind of do to their 1911, especially if you're running something that is like a Rock Island Armory or a Taurus that isn't a super high-end 1911 that you get out of box that is it's a decent firearm but needs a little bit of love. So I'll just start off there. I will start with mine, and I will show you a little bit of what has been done to this. Obviously, you can see from the get-go it is Duracoated. It's two-toned. The top, the slide is Duracoated in what they call their Parker color. It is not a black. It's kind of like a gunmetal gray, dark gray, and all the controls have been painted in that same color. The frame is Duracoated in OD green, and then the grips are VZ grips. These are the Alien grips with their screws, their hex screws that they also provide. The backside has featuring the bevel cut on the bottom, and also this is called their Super Scoop. This is really good feature. I like it a lot, especially because I have short thumbs. So I have a problem actuating the mag release sometimes on certain firearms if I can't get a good grip on it. So this allows you to, sort of lessen that material that your thumb has to reach over to access the mag release. So that's a nice feature. I do typically will put, this is traction tape, I will cut out a small piece, and this is to aid in my indexing, where I know where that thumb hits. It just kind of helps me, where I go to grab the weapon, I know that that's where my, thumb should be resting. And that on the outside is pretty much the only thing that is different about this. You will probably notice that the barrel is highly polished. I removed all of the parkerization that was on that, and also on the guide rod bushing, and the guide rod itself also is polished. And let me get this broke open for you, so you can kind of see. You can see there that the entire barrel and the guide rod is also highly polished. The reason why I do this, and I would recommend doing this, and I'll tell you how I did this, the easiest way to go about it, is when a lot of these lower end firearms, and not even just 1911s, but other manufacturers as well, they will, when they coat these weapons, because this is a Parkerized finished, the Taurus is in a, I believe it was just blued, I can't remember exactly. But anyway, a lot of times what happens is they will coat these, the external part, but as also the internal portion of the slide. Now, yes, that aids in a lot of corrosion resistance, that kind of thing. It does hinder the action of the weapon, and what I mean by that is any of these internal components that are moving around and have contact with each other, it will create friction because it is not this just straight steel that's been buffed out, polished or anything like that. So that's something that I do recommend doing, especially on any of the contact portions of the rail, from the slide into the frame. Now, the easiest way for you to do this, and the way that I did it, and maybe in the future I'll do a detailed video showing how exactly you go through this process. But take 1,000 grit wet dry automotive sandpaper. Sand it down to remove all of the parkerization or the bluing or whatever type of coating it is that they're doing to this, to get it all off of there. And then I use Flitz metal polish and a Dremel tool in their polishing bit, and then after that go over all the surfaces on the barrel or any other parts that might have metal to metal contact, including the inside parts of the rails, and buff that out. It might take you a little bit to get it to where you've completely removed all of that surface material and get it to a very slick, smooth surface. But I will tell you, once you do that, there is going to be a world of difference in the way this action feels. Just get your weapon in hand, try it out beforehand, kind of get it, that sort of memory of how your action feels in hand when it has that the parkerization or whatever kind of coating it is on the internal portion of that. Remove all that, clean it off, lube it up, and then try it. and I will tell you, it will feel like night and day. It feels like it's rolling on ball bearings. It's just there's no resistance or anything at all with that. And one of the other benefits of also doing this is that it will aid in your reliability. And the reason why that happens is especially with parkerization or any kind of painting on the inside, is when your weapon starts to get dirty and you start to get fouling or debris in the action, if the surface of that metal is porous or tacky or rough, or it wants to grip things, all of that debris and everything and the carbon buildup will inherently stick to it a lot more than a highly polished, slick steel surface like this. It's just kind of common sense, that's just the way it works. So you will aid in not only the cosmetic, aspect, but also in the reliability of the weapon and the way it feels in hand. That is something that I would highly recommend you doing with any 1911 if that is a situation. Some of the higher end weapons that you get in 1911s, that is already done. It is just straight steel on the inside and or polished. If you're talking about some of the Ed Brown's, Nighthawk Customs, something like that, they're already there for you. And that's part of the reason why they're so expensive. But that's one thing that I would highly recommend doing. As far as the internal components go, this is where it starts to get a little bit iffy. When you start changing out parts, like say you're talking about changing out a trigger, you're changing out, the mainspring housing here or anything like that. You've got the barrel bushing that you're going to change out to something that's more fitted. Any of that type of stuff. When you start changing out internal components like that, to say you get a gun like this and you want to change out a lot of those parts to Wilson Combat, a higher end component, there are going to be some fitting adjustments needed. A lot of those pieces, what happens is they come to you in slightly oversized diameters. And the reason for that is because they want to have that perfect tight tolerance fit. But the downside is that you have to fit them yourself. Sometimes you might get a little bit lucky and it might be drop-in. But generally speaking, that's not going to be the case. If you want those higher end components, you are going to have to either know how to or take it to somebody who can remove, millimeters of material from those pieces to get a good quality, reliable fit on the component. So that is something that if you're a novice, I probably wouldn't recommend doing yourself. I would recommend getting the part, taking it to a professional, and if you're interested in learning how to do that, see if they're okay with just teaching you how to do it yourself, or at least watching, so you can get that sort of process down or get a general idea of how it's done. Now, I have not done that personally with this. My kind of opinion of doing that, if you are changing out parts, I would prefer, if I were to purchase a high-end 1911, to just go that route. Instead of buying a lower end, upgrading components, having to have them fit, and everything, sort of creating like a Frankenstein gun, as I call it. I don't really advocate doing that. And again, this is just my personal preference. I would prefer to just spend the money to buy a Wilson Combat so that it is out of factory produced that way. But that's just my opinion. I would prefer to do it that way, or take a lower end 1911 like this, do a little bit of upgrading myself, with some, minor tooling, polish job, and what I just explained to you, add some other, cosmetic components to improve the functionality of the gun. But that's just how I like to do it. As far as the PT 1911, that's really what I did, the exact same thing to this firearm. It's Duracoated in a black on a slide with the controls the same way. These are the factory grips. That's the only thing that I do have to change out is I'm staying with black and kind of doing the exact same grips, VZ Alien grips, but in jet black. My sister does not want the Super Scoop put on there, but they do have a cutout. It's not quite as a deep cut on that. But as far as what's been modified on this firearm, the exact same thing. It's been taken apart. All of the, I believe it was bluing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but on the inside of the slide here and the rails, any kind of contact portions, all that material's been removed. It's been highly polished. and then a frog lube has been applied to it, treated 3 times. That's a good product too, by the way, to use. It does aid in slicking up that action for you. But that's about it. As far as any other kind of modifications, if you're curious about something, there's information out there. Just do a little bit of research and you should be fine. If I didn't cover something, which I probably didn't, because as I said, there is a whole lot of things that can be done to these guns to modify them. So if I didn't hit something, just ask. I have no problem answering the the PMs. Get a hold of me. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped you out a little bit if you're considering doing some of this stuff to your firearms, specifically 1911s. And as always, thanks for watching, folks. Purple Marine 81 out.